want to start in the NFL. We're obviously getting extremely close to the start of the season. This past weekend wraps up the final weekend of preseason. NFL football, you get the chance to see rookie quarterbacks play, but sometimes you get a chance to see veterans and starters. And before the start of every year, there's a list that comes out. The NFL players rank their top 100 players in the NFL. They're ranking their own peers. And Tom Brady was named the number one player in the NFL by the NFL players. Now, everyone's opinion on Tom Brady is going to change, whether you ask a player, whether you ask a coach, whether you ask an executive. But the mere fact that at the age of 45, that in the eyes of the players, he is voted the number one player is remarkable. So setting aside your personal biases towards him, leaning one way or another, the fact that he's garnered that many votes just in and of itself is amazing. But I've always said this about athletes. All their motivations, all their goals are going to change. Certain athletes value the money. Certain athletes value the clout and the fame. Not every athlete is in the business of trying to win championships and is all about trying to win as many games as possible. But there is one universally recognized trait that all athletes crave. This is ubiquitous across all sports. Every athlete craves and desires one thing, and that's the respect of their peers. Every single athlete across any sport, what they are eager for is the approval of their colleagues, is the approval of their peers. They want to demand respect out of the players that they are competing against. And that is a universal truth. If you were to put every athlete on a lie detector test, that is always going to be their default answer. And part of it is because of the competition and them wanting to feel like their competitors recognize and value who they are as athletes. But there's a certain status that comes with the respect that you command from your peers. And so when we set that to the forefront, we place that to the forefront and we say that these competitors that have battled against Brady, some of them were still in their mother's wombs when Brady was starting out in the NFL. The fact that they are recognizing him right now at 45 shows the respect, shows the fear that he demands and that he commands. Because last year, just a season ago, and again, these votes do take place in the middle of the year. So they didn't conclude at the very end of the 2021 season after the Rams won the Super Bowl. They took place in the middle of the year. So last year when this top 100 NFL players list came out, just to show some inconsistencies or consistencies or lack thereof, Patrick Mahomes is ranked number one. Aaron Rodgers was number 3. Aaron Donald was number 2, like he is this year. Tom Brady was all the way to 7. Now, mind you, at the end of last year, Tom Brady had just won a Super Bowl for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the first of their organization, in his first season. And he came into the following NFL season ranked number 7. Now, if you were to look pound for pound, position for position, I think there's a strong argument to be made that perhaps other players should garner that top vote. However, I actually am fine with Brady being voted number 1. I truly am. Because what this list is about, it's about talent, it's about stats, it's about impact, it's about winning. So, and it's about value. And when you look at a guy like Tom Brady and what he accomplished last season, again, isolating and setting aside his career accomplishments, because it's easy to get engulfed and trapped by what he's accomplished over his entire career and just be lullabied to sleep and automatically give him the default top spot in the NFL right now. But even if you were to just isolate last year, there was a compelling argument for him to be the number 1 player. He led the NFL in passing yards. He led the NFL in passing yards per game. He led the NFL in touchdowns. Again, setting aside the fact that he accomplished this at the age of 44, just in and of itself, the passing yards were a career high for the multi-MVP, multi-time Super Bowl champion. So you look at the stats. He had career numbers, led the NFL in several categories. You look at impact. He is a gravitational pull. He is, in essence, a centripetal force. I still can't explain the near collapse by the LA Rams last season, and I'm a Rams fan. I don't know how it happens. You're up 27-3, and inexplicably, you fumble the ball 4 times, you miss a field goal. I think that can only be explained by one thing, and it's just the aura and the presence of Tom Brady. I truly believe it, and I'm not a very superstitious person when it comes to that. Perhaps there was some higher divine intervention. I don't know, but what I have seen before is this one man has caused teams to kind of shrivel up. And only he could induce an offense, again, to fumble it 4 times late in the first half and into the second half, a missed field goal, and bring the team all the way back from 27-3. Now, the Rams ultimately won, fortunately, which wasn't the case for the Atlanta Falcons that were up 28-3. But the mere fact that the game got to that position at that time spoke to one man's presence and the fear that he demands. And even Patrick Mahomes supporters, and I love Patrick Mahomes. I was early on his bandwagon. Even Patrick Mahomes supporters have to acknowledge the fear from Tom Brady because he's 2-0 against their guy in the postseason. So Mahomes doesn't necessarily have the argument to say, hey, coming into this year, yeah, he's definitively better than Tom Brady. Would I take Mahomes going into this year? Yes, I would. But I don't have a problem with Brady being in front of Patrick Mahomes. Now let's look at Aaron Rodgers. Now people will say Aaron Rodgers is the back-to-back reigning 2-time MVP, 4 times altogether, for the last 2 seasons. And wouldn't it be prudent to put him at number 1? Probably. But then again, we've seen how he's faltered in the postseason the last several years. Brady's got a better head-to-head record, not to mention he knocked him off his horse in the NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field 2 years ago. Again, this list is related to last season as opposed to two years ago. But the point is, are Aaron Rodgers fans really going to look Tom Brady fans in the eyes and confidently say, our guy is better than yours? I don't really think there's a strong argument beyond he's received MVP back-to-back years, but he hasn't backed it up in the postseason. So I personally believe that Tom Brady would be better than Aaron Rodgers coming into this year. I think we've seen that he's elevated his level of play in the postseason, whereas Aaron Rodgers over the last couple of postseasons, they faltered a little bit. He struggled kind of inexplicably as well. So again, when you're looking at the stats, when you're looking at the talent, when you're looking at the impact and the value, so the quarterback position is just inherently the most valuable position in football and arguably in team sports. You can understand why you'd put a quarterback ahead of someone like Aaron Donald, who I think that for his position right now is more talented than Tom Brady is at his position right now. But again, the quarterback is more valuable in football than a pass rusher or a tackle in Aaron Donald's case. So, or defensive end in Aaron Donald's case. So it's always interesting, but I think that the results of this kind of, and this consensus opinion is probably more a reflection of, hey, which quarterback would you want in a single game elimination type of situation, as opposed to for the entirety of the season. Who was the best quarterback in the NFL? I think that perhaps players have kind of become transfixed with what Tom Brady's been able to do in the postseason and in single game situations. Because I think there are other quarterbacks where if your offensive line is bad or you need an athletic play to be created, there are other guys that I prefer to have over Tom Brady. But overall, the complete package at the quarterback position, again, I understand. I understand why Tom Brady's ranked number one. Players simply respect him more than they respect any other player. And for that, I've got no problem with him being voted number one.